So I know a lot of people enjoyed season 2 of Alchemy of Souls, but I am unfortunately not one of them. I thought that this second season was really badly done, and I wish I could take back I don't know how many hours I spent on these 10 episodes, but I wish I could take them back. Hi everyone, welcome to the Dramasology podcast. In this episode, I cover Alchemy of Souls season 2. Oh, I guess I'll call it part 2 for the Alchemy of Souls fans there. They are very particular about calling it part 2. So Alchemy of Souls part 2, Light and Shadow. It stars Lee Jae-wook, Yoo-jung, Hwang, and Shin, and it's a continuation of part 1 that ended, I think it ended in like August, and then season 2 or part 2 started in December. And I was actually really excited for part 2 because, I actually enjoyed Alchemy of Souls part 1. Like, part 1 was fantastic. Like, everything just worked well. I had not watched a drama that had that genre of like historical fantasy in such a long time that I was like, it was everything about it I loved it so much, right? And so I was pissed, that they split it into 2 parts, but I was like, okay, you know what, I'll enjoy it still. Like, I was really looking forward to this season 2. Like, most people were like, I heard that part 2 ended in like 17% rating on TVN, so it did really well, and so obviously people really enjoyed this part 2, but not me. Unfortunately I was not a big fan of this second part because for a lot of reasons. First of all, like, even before the part 2 came out, there was talks about it being like an amnesia plot that they were going to go with, and I immediately already hated that because I don't know, it's bad writing at this point. Like, too many amnesia should not happen that often. Like, amnesia is not that easy to get, guys. And so, like, that just being the premise of season 2 was, I really disliked it. Like, I knew I would probably struggle with that part, but I was willing to give it a chance because I really, really liked everything about season 1. And so I was like, you know what, like, season 2, it can't be that bad, right? Hopefully they'll do it well and I'll like it. And so I was looking forward to season 2, like, and when it did come out, I was one of the first people to watch it. Like, the first episode of season 2, I was really there at the beginning, one of the first few people to watch it, right? And so season 2, Light and Shadow, it's something. And I blame the issue I have with this drama not on the actress, because I know a lot of people have been mentioning the fact that the actress changed from Jung So-min to Yoo-jung, and I was actually one of the people that I actually don't care as much that there was a change in the actress. The issue is actually with the plot and the story and the writing. So even though this second season ends with a happy ending, there was just something about the whole progression, right, that it messed me up. Like, I did not like it at all. And I guess for some people, like, the ending matters more than the journey. But for me, the journey matters on how they got to the ending. And the journey to this happy ending was I just did not vibe with it, unfortunately. I would say that because it's Netflix, and because Netflix is all about, splitting one season into like multiple parts, there was this continuation issue, right, that would not have happened if this was not airing on Netflix, most likely, right? If this was airing somewhere else, or it was just TVN that was carrying this drama, this continuation thing would not have happened. Like, the continuation break that I experienced, the dissonance I experienced between season 1 and season 2 would not have probably happened. But because Netflix got involved and they got their hands on this drama, right, I ended up having an issue with the total progression of this drama because everything just seems still in comparison to season 1. Like, everything just seems like less, like, I don't know, there was just this sense of like, okay, I shouldn't say this because it makes it seem like as if like the actors are at fault, but even the acting was not on the level where I felt like even the actors cared enough about this season 2. Like, there was nothing wrong with it, but there was this lackluster feeling about this whole season. Like, the feeling that I got, right, the intense feeling that I got from season 1 was just not in this season 2. It just felt like everybody was tired. That's what it felt like to me, right? And so that, I think, it's also because of that split, right? And I honestly, I blame Netflix. I blame Netflix. I also blame TVN for letting Netflix have a hand in this because it messed up so many things, right? Anyways, for Alchemy of Souls season 2, Light and Shadow, Jang-wook returns from death, and 3 years later, right, the story of mages unfolds anew. So it says Jang-wook becomes a hunter of soul shifters when a young woman, a prisoner in her own home, seeks his help to reclaim her freedom. Okay, so at the beginning of season 2, we see that Jang-wook has become this kind of hunter of soul shifters, right? Because he has been given. So season 1, the end of season 1, I don't know if they explained the fact that Jang-wook got the ice stone, right? Jang-wook is given the ice stone somehow at the end of season 1. I don't know how that happens. I thought it was because it was the King Star that he was awakened, right, when he died, but it was obviously because of the ice stone. I thought it was because of it was the King Star or something, and so that's why he could wake up again from death. But at the beginning of season 2, we find out it's the ice stone, like the ice stone is inside him, right? And so he goes around killing soul shifters, right, at this point. First of all, I have an issue with that premise of the fact that he's the one that's hunting soul shifters, because he almost seems hypocritical given that he knows that Naksu was also a soul shifter. He doesn't know. We know, right? We the viewers know that Naksu actually she did not consent to soul shifting into Jin Boo-yeon, like in the way she did, right? Like in the sense that Jin Boo-yeon was the one that took control of her and made her soul shift into her and that kind of thing, right? So Jang-wook doesn't know this fact. All Jang-wook knows is that Naksu soul shifted into somebody, right? And so in season 1, we get the sense that he's okay with the fact that she soul shifted into somebody else, and he's willing to get the ice stone to keep her in the body she's in, thereby making the original owner of the body kind of dead. Like he's basically aiding and abetting the death of the original owner, right? He never once thinks about like, oh, the body that like my lover is in the body of somebody else, right? No, he thinks, oh, let's get the ice stone and make this permanent, which is a problem. It's okay because I could understand, okay, he's in love with her and it's our interest that he cares about. But in season 2, it's like a 180 in the sense that he's now become this person that hunts soul shifters. What does that like? It makes him a hypocrite in the sense that his own lover used to be this kind of person, right? And his own lover too, like they never give Naksu a redemption in the sense that she killed a lot of people, guys. Like she's clearly not a good person technically, right? But he was okay with that. And okay, I get the sense that okay, yes, it's because somebody has to do this, right? They've given him this role in the sense that since Park Jin has stepped down and they've had this agreement that he will own soul shifters in repayment for like the fact that he gets to keep the ice stone and Park Jin keeps his life or something like that, like so he has to own like the rest of the soul shifters that there are. But I remember thinking that he's not really the person to be doing this. But again, I guess it's okay because even though he's doing it, I guess we never get a sense that Jang-wook really cares whether or not he's killing these people. He's very indifferent to what he's doing, right? So like it's not on the level of the way Park Jin took it. Park Jin felt like, oh no, soul shifters it's wrong and so they should be killed, right? Whereas Jang-wook is doing it because it's like this is what they want me to do and I'm seeking death and I miss my lover and I could care less, right? So okay, maybe there's that fact. But I remember thinking, I don't know how I feel about him being the one to be killing soul shifters, given that his own lover used to be a soul shifter. And maybe that's his punishment, given that he knew and he kept quiet. So he is the one that they are giving this burden to get rid of people like her, right? But yeah, then as time progresses, right, he meets this girl, right, that's basically kept in a prison by Jin Ho-kyung, right? Jin Ho-kyung is keeping her daughter prisoner in their home. And this is the point where when they started explaining how Jin Boo-yeon came back to be that, I started to like kind of doze off a little bit in the sense that, so they go that when Mudok fell into the lake, the only thing that was left was Jin Boo-yeon's body but Naksu's soul. And so when she was drawn out and Master Lee like fixed her up, he could only fix her up back using the soul that was left, which is Naksu's soul. And so that is obviously why the visual that we see is that of Naksu, the original Naksu. So obviously it must be that somehow your soul resembles your physical appearance, right? Because otherwise this doesn't make any sense, right? But obviously there's something that ties your soul to the way you actually look, which is why even though it's Jin Boo-yeon's body, like our blood, our bones, our flesh, the face or the look of how she is like reformed and reshaped and transformed takes the form of Naksu. That because that's the only other explanation, right? But again, this is explanation that I was like, that's the only way I could rationalize what Masali was saying at that point, but I'll take it, right? And so that's why she looks the way she does. And so they mentioned that slowly and slowly, right, Jin Boo-yeon is going to take over. I don't know how, because they did mention that Jin Boo-yeon's soul was lost in the lake, right? But they say, okay, so Naksu at some point, like, and this is the thing, like, they don't tell you everything at once. Like, Masali will tell you half of it in like episode 3, and then again in episode like 5, and then again in episode like 8. Like, it's not like a one go. And so there's a sense of like disconnect in understanding what's going on. But after a while, they change tune and they're like, okay, at some point, Naksu's mind is going to, like, her soul is going to like slowly die off, and it will only be Jin Boo-yeon left. And I'm like, okay, like, I thought you said and Jin Boo-yeon's soul was lost in the lake, and so that's why you had to use Naksu's soul. So I assumed that that was it. There was no more soul shifting, there was nothing. And then they were like, oh no, if by mistake Naksu regains her memory, then she's going to go petrified again. And I'm like, what? Like, the story, like, I get they're trying to give all this information and everything, but it just seems like they're changing tunes, pulling things out of the heart. Like, things are not flowing the way they should to me. And then later on, they go on to say that, okay, now Jin Boo-yeon is not really Jin Boo-yeon, it's Jin Soran that has been reborn. So obviously the ice stone that they used, right, that Jin Oh-kyung used contains the soul of Jin Soran, right? And so when she put that inside her to make her baby stay alive, it basically that person was Jin Soran, right? That's why she has this amazing divine power and all these things, right? And so that's the new information that they give us again, right? And all this actually is okay. I'm okay with all these plots, like this story. It's not bad. It's really good, actually. The issue is, like, I feel like the pacing, it just doesn't seem right. More so because I remember, like, I was watching the last episode, and I was like, at some point I had to like move my mouse to see how far along I was, because I was like, okay, so we have 30 minutes more. Like, that's all we have left. They are going to somehow have to do all this, tell us all this, do this all fighting in this few 30 minutes time we have left. And I'm just thinking, like, why didn't they do this in episode 9? Like, why didn't they like pace this out well? They gave us so much filler episodes earlier that I'm like, all this could have been avoided if they had built up. Like, season 1 does a good job of that. Like, things that happen in season 1, they happen in like increments, right? It's not everything all at once. So I was like, why didn't they do that for season 2 and like pace everything little by little? It felt like all the reviews happened in the last 2 episodes, and I'm just like, why couldn't they like pace it better, right? And I have to say, on just like things that were just pissing me off, like this second season, was there's a point where Soyul is dying, right? And they mentioned that, okay, Jin Boo-yeon is going to take, I think, his energy and take it to the Firebird and have the Firebird consume it or something like that, right? And she has to do this in a certain amount of time. And they basically use an hourglass to like count the amount of time that's running left. And it cuts to the scene where Jin Boo-yeon is there, Jang-wook is there, and the Crown Prince is there, and they are literally having a conversation as Soyul is dying. Like, do you guys understand? Like, I'm like, Jang-wook, is this the person that you basically wanted to kill Jin-woo for? Like, why are you guys talking? Like, this is not the time to be discussing anything, especially something so irrelevant, like, at that moment. Like, your friend is dying, and they're basically, like, pointing at, I'm like, how is this? Like, I'm like, hurry, like, and so like things like that, just, I'm like, what is going on, right? So it's things like that that just got on my nerves in this second season, because I mean, another thing that got on my nerves, for example, is the fact that Soyu, like, I couldn't understand Soyu's point of view anymore. Like, I understood him in season 1 in the sense that, okay, he liked Naksu. He knew it was Naksu that was in the body of this person. He could tell she was a soul shifter at some point, right? But he was going to keep it a secret. I could understand that point. But then in season 2, suddenly he's like, he wants to kill her. Like, I couldn't understand. He was keeping it a secret. Like, everybody was keeping secrets. Someone was communicating too. Like, if people knew stuff and they all kept, like, they all knew their portion and we're not willing to communicate. I'm like, is this how you run is this how you run organizations? I have a Sungrim and like Sejugo, like all the organization, everybody should be talking, but no one was talking to each other. And I'm like, and no one wanted to tell Jang-wook what was happening, right? And I'm like, he's not a baby, right? Like they all felt like they had to protect him. Okay, guys that watch like Western shows know this about like superheroes, Western superheroes. Their love interest is always kept in the dark about this, and the argument they always give when the love interest finally finds out is like, oh no, I did it to protect you. And I'm always like, protect them from what exactly, right? Because the villain knows who your love interest is, and the villain is always the first to like kidnap your love interest, and then they find out. And I'm like, so what exactly are you protecting them from in this scenario, right? It's always a problem for me. I can never understand. And so they do that to Jung-wook in this second season. They treat him like he's a baby or something, and I don't understand because they keep making decisions for him, right? It was very gross to watch, honestly, because like he kept finding out everything in the last minute, right? So you kept keeping it a secret. Like he could have told them about the worm or his sickness a long time ago, right? Like his uncle, or I don't know how the head of Sejugon is related to him, but like the grandpa figure could have fixed this a long time ago. Like he knew somebody that could have saved him a long time ago, but he kept it a secret. Like the sense of that we should pity him because I don't know what they wanted us to feel about his character in this second season, right? And so that was another thing I disliked. Like every character was pissing me off as time went on, even the Crown Prince, who I loved in season 1 because I had the sense that he knew what was right, and he knew like he had enough sense, enough smarts to like get it done. So I never felt like Jimu was smarter than him in season 1. I just felt that like, okay, he respected Jimu because Jimu was his master in that sense, but I could tell he was a good person. But in season 2 as well, like I prefer his character more to like Soyu, in the sense that like he's still trying to reunite with Jang-wook. He's still trying to like get back on Jang-wook's good side because he felt like he did something wrong. But I kept thinking, why didn't this guy put Jimu in jail a long time ago? Like, why isn't Jimu in jail? Like, why do you keep talking to him? And I don't know, like this second season just has characters acting out of character. Like I was finding it hard to understand anybody, right? Even Hwang, I think her name is, the granddaughter of the grandfather, like grandfather figure that's the head of Sejugon. Even her, she was out of character. Like she turned into a bitch all of a sudden, and I'm like, that was not how she was set up in season 1. Like, why is everything just out of place? Park Jin as well, he suddenly turned into this comic relief, right? Like, and it wasn't comic relief that I enjoyed either. Like, it was comic relief that was very cringe for me. I did not enjoy it since the way people were, and I'm sorry, like I feel like I'm like butchering this second season, but I'm so sorry, I just did not enjoy it. And so like even his character was like trying to be extremely funny. Like scenes like that, those were scenes they could have cut out to make room for the last episode, to make like the last episode longer, right? In the sense that scenes like that were not necessary the way they were doing it. Like it was not necessary to have him talk about his food, and like I was not feeling any of those things, right? And I have to say that I was also disappointed that they never gave Naksu powers, in the sense that like, so in season 1, the only time we ever see Naksu or Mudok show any strength in like actual fighting is in the very last episode where she goes petrified, and you see just this amazing skill that she has. And in season 2 I was like, okay, hopefully they will show that in some form, but they kind of reduce her to being Jang-wook's love interest in a way that I did not enjoy at all. Like I was hoping there would be a scene where she confronts Jimu in like she actually fights him to the death, and she's the one that kills him because he actually ruined her life, right? But that never really happens, right? Everything was just not right. They made her a kind of Cinderella, kind of fairy tale princess in this season 2 in the way that I don't think it was necessary. Like I think they could have gone a whole different route with season 2 and it would have been better. She didn't have to lose her memory for one, and I don't know why they decided to go with that route, right? I keep thinking of like so many other things they could have done, right? And I just I struggled so much with watching this second season. When I was on episode 8 and 9, I was like dozing off, and then like episode 10 comes on and I'm like, oh, this is fantastic, right? All the action that was kind of out of nowhere, because like for all of a sudden like Jimu is changing into someone else's body. Like, why didn't they kill him when they had a chance? Like things like that, like all that is happening in episode 10, right? And so episode 10 is very jam-packed but it's all so late in the game that I'm like, why are they taking so much time in all these other scenes when they can go right into the action, go right into the meat of it, right? And they really messed this up for me, honestly. And I hope they just keep this is the end. I hope they don't go another season of, because they do that. Netflix kind of person that they'll try and convince the screenwriters and maybe directors and TVN to do a third season, right? And I'm just like, you know what, let them just end it here, right? Unless they want to do something like a third season, or you know what, no, just end it here and just let this be the end, because this is how American shows end up being trash, right? They keep making more and they never know when to end. And so honestly, I was not so sold on season 2 the way I was in season 1. Characters were not making sense. Everything seemed to be just pulled out of a hat. At first you think that at the end, when Kim Do-joo and Jin Ho-kyung are inside Jin Yoo-won, that okay, they are dead, and Park Jin, they are dead, and then suddenly they're not, and I'm I don't know, I wasn't following it as well, but for me it just seemed all off for some reason, and it's unfortunate. But I could see from viewers and people's comments that obviously they enjoyed this, right? They enjoyed it so much, and I'm like, why am I the only one that's not enjoying this? I did not like it as much. It wasn't that good, and I guess it was easy to enjoy. I think, actually, I'm going to give my theory on this. I think that if season 2 had ended in a bad ending, you'd get a whole different reaction from people. People will nitpick all the things that were wrong with this second season. But because it ended on a good note, I think people are willing to forgive the fact that there was so much bad writing pacing in this second season, right? Because, happy ending does it. I am glad it ended in a happy ending. I can then rewatch it multiple times. I probably will not. But, it gives a sense of everything being good at the end of season 2, and everything just being right at the end of season 2, and that allows people to kind of forgive a lot of things. But honestly, it wasn't that good. It wasn't that good. I'm sorry, guys, I have to say that season 2 it wasn't, I had to force myself to watch the last episode, and only because I needed to do this review. Honestly, if not because I had to do a review, because I felt like I owed it to my listeners to make a review of season 2, I would have stopped watching at episode 9 or episode 8 and just never gone back, because I do that when I don't like a drama. If a drama is not going well halfway through, I'll just stop and I'll not I'll just not watch it again. And so that was it. A lot of issues, a lot of problems, not as good. Could have been better, honestly, could have been better, and I honestly, I blame Netflix. I'm going to blame Netflix, right? I feel like this is Netflix's fault, right? I'm not going to blame anybody else. I'll just blame Netflix. Netflix, this is your fault, right? Stop splitting seasons, please. Oh my god, just don't. K-dramas are best when they are is Netflix listening? Someone call Netflix on to this podcast and have them listen. Stop splitting seasons, right? If a season is 16 episodes, just leave it at 16 episodes, right? And move on to the next thing, right? Just move on to the next thing. I'll give them a solution for this subscription problem, because clearly they have one. What they should do is just pre-produce Aichi and all this dramas made in China. They pre-produce and they kind of tell you what is coming up, right? And they have a schedule and stuff, right? And so you kind of know what to expect. That keeps your subscribers waiting, because they're oh, that is coming and I am so excited about that. So just pre-produce a bunch of dramas and just schedule them in advance for the whole year. You will not lose subscribers that way, okay? Please stop splitting K-dramas. They are not I feel like K-dramas are the victim here. They're changing the whole landscape of the Korean dramas. That's really cool. I guess that's what money does. It messes with everybody, and people are suddenly all about season 2. And I'm even Squid Games. I heard Squid Games is coming out with a second season, and I'm the guy that wrote it, or the director, was he's not in a second season. He never had that in mind, and suddenly it's a thing. I'm just leave it the way it is. Don't make more. Things can be a masterpiece on their own. But yeah, that's it for me. Like I'm sorry guys, I don't rate this second season that high. It wasn't working for me. A lot of scenes were nice. The kiss scenes were like amazing, but again, it's not enough to give this a high rating, right? Just a lot of problems, and yeah, so that's unfortunately my review. Not that good, could have been better. And yeah, on to the next one. Thank you guys so much for listening. Follow me on Reddit. I'm at u/Dramasology. So follow me there. Let me know what you think. If you think that I'm wrong, tell me on there. And tell me why, because I want to hear why. I want to hear why you really like this second season that I disliked it so much. So thank you guys so much for listening. Have a nice day. Bye bye.